Hey, 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 everyone. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Up here, guys. Up here in the top middle. You see me. You see me. I'm real tiny like. A few more days of March left. So let's get through this another March Madness bracket. I don't know if I'm going to do another one before the month is out. I mean, it's, there's always next year. I hope these continue. I hope these continue. I hope there's a new series of these next year. More brackets, more March Madness. It's been fun. It's been fun. All right, and shout out to Shan over here for coming out with this bracket, and really the guy who came out with the Kanye bracket, who kicked this whole thing off. It's been a great time. All right, so obviously Brockhampton head posting tournament. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? I've already picked most of the tracks over here, so let me get that up in front of me. I'll go through my logic, my decisions with all these picks, and that'll be that. All right. Okay. Starting off in the top left quadrant, we're going to go quadrant by quadrant. Starting up in the top left, it was hard, man. It was hard. Zipper versus Heat. I do love Zipper. That shout out makes my bulge tingle, which, I'm sure Brockhampton is excited to hear. It's a tingliness. Tingles are nice. But I got to give it to Heat. Opening track to Saturation 1. Amazing track. Amazing song. Like, I don't know. I can't really say enough nice things about Heat. The crazy, insane, bright, intense synthesizers on the track. That fat, distorted bass line. Joba's, fuck yeah! Like, everybody's verse on that track. Everybody does such an incredible job on that song. It's just so impossibly hype and dark and like tortured and menacing. I just love it. I just love it. I can't say enough nice things about Heat. Incredible song. For me, Gamba against Tupac is really kind of no contest, with Tupac being one of the... It's a decent track, but it's one of the more meager songs on the record. Gamba is... one of the more beautiful, compelling, like little auto-tune ballads in the group's discography that I like quite a bit. It's sweet on the ears. It's sweet. It's cute. It's likable. Now Tokyo, while it is one of the catchier and more straightforward bops on Saturation 2, I gotta give it to Sister Nation. Sister Nation is not only one of the best tracks on Saturation 3, but it's one of the group's most experimental and cutting-edge songs, period. Like that driving synth punk first leg of the track, and then what it transitions into later, and the various beat switch-ups. It's an insane song. Merlin's verse, his performance on that track, the first part of the track, is fantastic. Team versus Summer, two finishing tracks head-to-head. I had to go with Summer. I feel like Summer is the more coherent ballad of the two. I really don't care too much for the latter rap portion of Team. I feel like it's a little too washed out, reverby, and doesn't add too much to the track. I just feel like Summer is just more straightforward, more I guess a more kind of complete package of kind of a just sweet little bareface tune. In the heat of the summer. Sorry, I'm not going to try to sing it. I'll just embarrass myself. Now, guys, listen. I mean, there's a lot of commendable moments on the first Brockhampton tape. We're talking pre-saturation here. But nothing on that project really goes up against Boogie, to be honest. And going through the rest of this, just to kind of give you guys a bit of a heads up, their earlier material, it's not going to be faring too well in the bracket. It's okay, especially in retrospect, now that I appreciate them a lot more. And some of their earliest singles, like the song Dirt, I think is a very good tune. But to me, a lot of that stuff just kind of reads as the group having not yet come into their own. And I don't know, it's just kind of is what it is. Now, Milk versus Poison, obviously, with everything I just said, it's going to go to Milk. However, I'm not just giving it to Milk because of that. I mean, Milk is actually one of my favorite Brockhampton tracks. I love the message of the song about being, yourself, and I kind of love the blends of pop and indie rock and hip hop that the song brings. It's really one of their smarter tracks in that it sort of blends so many different genres and emotions and styles into one piece of music, really seamlessly, really effectively. All right, moving on from there. Now, in a contest of Heat versus Gamba, I got to give it to the banger. It goes to Heat. Sister Nation over Summer. Obviously with all the compliments I gave to Sister Nation being taken into account. And Boogie versus Milk is obviously not a choice I want to make. Boogie being one of the group's most off-the-wall bangers. Milk, to me, being one of their most emotionally significant songs. But for me, at the end of the day, it's probably got to be Boogie. It's maybe the more cutting-edge track instrumentally. And on top of that, I guess what else I'll say is that I feel like it's more of an even display of each member's talent. I guess a wider array of members of the group. I guess I'm not totally done with the upper left-hand quadrant. This is sort of broken up in an odd way because there's so many different sections, but I'll continue through this. Rental versus Boys. Neither are really sort of like in top 10 for Brockhampton tracks for me, but I do find Boys slightly catchier. Hello boys say, hello boys say, hello boys. And Star versus Gummy, it's not really any contest. It goes to Star. It so goes to Star. Bam, 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 down, down, down. Plus, some of the best verses that they've ever put together end up on Star. Still though, excuse me, Gummy is not a bad cut. It's not a bad cut. All right, moving on from there. I give it to Star over Boys for pretty obvious reasons. I don't know many people who would be into Star more than Boys, but I guess that's just me. If you're more into Star than you are Boys, show yourself and give some reasoning. And now we're at a point where it's Star, Boogie, Sister Nation, and Heat. I ended up giving it to Heat over Sister Nation. Ended up giving it to Star over Boogie. And then finally I gave it to Heat for the first of the three different sort of little quadrants over here that are sort of in the final three. So that's kind of the upper left. Let's do the bottom left over here. Fight over Ben Carson. Obviously, love the beat switch up on Fight. It's an intense song. It's a dark song. Definitely one of their more hard-hitting cuts. And just can't really say too many nice things about it. Oops, put that in the wrong spot. There we go, fixed it. Alaska versus Swim. Alaska does have some nice qualities to it, but for me, it's one of the sleepier tracks on Saturation 3. And not that Swim is super hard-hitting or anything. I guess I just find Swim to be a prettier, nicer, more serene moment. It's kind of a pretty ballad, I'll say. Pretty little auto-tuned rap track. Went with Jello over Palace. Though, Jello's good, but it's not one of my favorite tracks of theirs. It's, the la-di-da-di-da-di-da and, all the kind of chipmunk vocals on there, I feel like are a little much, but, it's still not a bad tune. And I went with Bump over Stupid. Stupid is actually one of the better tracks off Saturation 3, but the production on Bump is insane. And yet again, it's one of those tracks that I love from the group that mix elements of, hip-hop and rock music, and it just works. It just works really effectively. It's kind of a nice sort of juxtaposition and sort of change up when you go to the chorus and you come back to that trunk knocking beat. It's like really exciting. It's just like mind-blowing. Moving on from there, I went with Bump over Jello. Trying to get it over there. And it's just not working out. having a technical difficulty here, apparently. All right, well, let's move on to something else. Well, I went with, let me see, I went with Fight Over Swim. There we go, that works. And I went with Bump Over Jello. Now Bump is reversed, so whatever. And then I ended up going with Bump Over Fight. To me, just more hard-hitting a track, more exciting a track, more interesting instrumentally, more memorable refrains on that track too. So that's kind of my feeling on the bottom left quadrant. Let's take it to the top right. Let's take it to the top right. Let's see. We got Trip and Bank. Both tracks that, again, not top 10 tracks for me, but I ended up going with Bank. I do love what sounds like kind of that weird little plinky thumb piano melody on there. It's kind of intoxicating, and that little auto-tune vocal line, still the only one I do that with, is definitely superior to my ears, definitely hookier, definitely a little sweeter on the ears. And speaking of sweet, of course I went with Sweet over Cotton Hollow. Not just because the hook is killer, but Sweet, I think like most people, has one of my favorite Merlin verses. Don't call me stupid, that's not how my name's pronounced. Of course, Queer over Infatuation, but Queer actually has one of the best trunk-knocking beats of any Brockhampton song. And that whole skinny boy, where your muscles at? Fucking, Matt Champion kills it on that song. Fake over Breakfast. Again, no contest there with some of the older material, but Fake is not maybe one of my favorite Brockhampton songs. It does have that, cute yippee yippee sort of a refrain, but still not too crazy about it. Gold over Chick, obviously. I mean, keep a gold chain on my neck, fly as a jet. You can't really deny it. And everybody's verse on that track is just excellent. Super catchy, super flashy, super fun. Went with Junkie over Liquid. Liquid's good, but Junkie, that you cannot, like, that melody gets stuck in my head every time. The way the beat sort of progresses is fantastic. It's so hard hitting. And Matt Champion, I haven't said this enough, has one of the most feminist verses of hip hop history on this track, in my opinion. I mean, maybe you disagree, but let's see. I went with Waste Over Home. Waste ain't a bad track. Went with Cash over Johnny, but neither are really kind of pure favorites of mine. I do kind of like that Silver Band's hook and everything, but Cash is not really one of the best tracks off Saturation for me, and Johnny is easily one of the sleepiest tracks on Sat 3, so whatever. Went with Stains over Lost in Love. And obviously with Teeth, again, being one of the more scant tracks on the record, I went with Swamp over Teeth. But I mean, of course, I do love that fucking commas up from the outside. It's just so, I don't know, just so eargasmic. Moving on from there. Let's see. I went with Face over Dirt, even though, again, I feel like Dirt is one of the group's better early singles. To me, Face is just one of the most supremely sad songs on Saturation 1. And then I went with Bleach over Hottie, because Bleach is one of the most supremely sad songs on Saturation 3. And then after that, it was pretty much just like the showdown of the sad songs, and I ended up going with Bleach over Face. Although I am kind of getting ahead of myself, not sort of doing one quadrant at a time. Let's finish the top right. Bank and Sweet. I ended up going with Sweet. Again, it's just kind of all about the hooks and the verses on that track. There's just so much, there's just like an amazing energy and charisma between all of the group members on that song. Going with Queer over Fake. I cannot deny that instrumental. God. And then I ended up going with Queer over Sweet. Let's see. Going from there. Now, Gold and Junkie, it's hard. It's not a choice I want to make. It's really not. It's not a happy choice. It's not a feel-good choice. Junkie also does have that amazing line from Kevin Abstract about not enough rappers rapping and being gay, which, I also, sticks with me. It was an incredible vocal, an incredible performance moment in the Saturation trilogy. I did end up going with Junkie. Again, not a choice I wanted to make. I love Gold. It's one of my favorite singles of the year, but, it was a hard choice, but, sort of, comparing track to track to track to track, I just ended up going with Junkie. Just because, I guess, substantively, it just means more to me, is I guess how I'll put it. Even if it's not as viral a song, even if it's not as instantly a catchy song. Waste and Cash, I didn't have too much, invested in this head-to-head. I just went with Waste. And then I went with Junkie past that. And then when it was Junkie and Queer, I ended up going with Junkie. Again, because Queer instrumental is fantastic. Hookier song, but Junkie just has so much more weight to me. Let's see. Moving on from there, Stains versus Swamp. I ended up going with Swamp, just the catchier track in my opinion. And ended up going with Swamp over Bleach, and ended up going with Bump over Swamp. So now we essentially have Heat, Junkie, Bump. I ended up going with Heat over Junkie. So I don't know, Junkie can get out of here, I guess. And so now it's like Heat versus Bump. Heat versus Bump. Yeah, I do love these two tracks. I think they're fantastic. I think they're two of the group's best. And honestly, I just ended up going with Heat. Heat! I fucking love this song. I love it so much. And it's so, I don't know. It's just such an intense, heavy, freaky, foreboding, disturbing song. Like, it's easily one of the group's darkest tracks. However, I don't think that this song would have as much meaning to me if it weren't for the fact that, they do dark tracks like this. They do very light, poppy, catchy, sweet tunes as well that display a lot of tenderness and vulnerability. Heat is just like raw anger and frustration, and like I absolutely just love it. I'm just so enamored with it. I'm just about Heat all day, and that's pretty much where I have to leave it. I just fucking love the shit out of Heat. Oh, this one was pretty quick, 18 minutes, I guess. We had a lot of songs, but Brockhampton's music, it's not super conceptual or anything like that, so it's kind of difficult to go into the narrative of each track. Really kind of comes down to the energy, the vibe, the hookiness, the catchiness of their music. However, with all that being said, I am hoping they kind of reach a point of maturity, or maybe kind of experiment a little bit more with songs that are a little bit more conceptual in nature. That would certainly make Team Effort kind of refreshing, and it would be a nice change of pace. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do in 2018 or maybe even 2019 if they end up pushing the album out that far. Which, hey, if it takes time, it takes time. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this bracket, and I think might leave it as this for brackets in 2018 in March. We'll see, but I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. All right, over here next to my head somewhere is another video you can check out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you forever.